Trent Conaway.
Howdy.
Your truck and your business, because apparently there's people uptown that think it came from Norfolk money.
Yep.
Okay. Well, go ahead and elaborate. Let them know what that it's not. If it ain't.
Well, my pickup truck was bought after I left my last job at East Fairfield Coal. I had a company truck, so I had to give that up. And when I gave it up, I had to buy a new one. So my truck was purchased August before the train wreck. And the new business venture was something to do on the side, and the money for that came from unfortunately my in-laws passed away, one right before the train wreck, one right after the train wreck. So, we had a little extra money, and we thought, hey, that's a good business to start, in town. Sure. It was 100% paid for by me and my wife, and with our funds, and so people can say what they want, and but that's where it came from, and I've heard you mention about my kids' cars, and that money came up. Their grandparents gifted that money, and fortunately enough, they were able to buy some new vehicles. But it means that I have the money.
Well, I mean, and you were. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. Weren't you a boiler maker?
No, I was a miner.
You worked as a miner
at East Fairfield Coal
and then part-time as mayor.
Okay. And then I left East Fairfield. Just didn't want to work underground anymore. That's when I left, and I went to Thermotech on the outside of town. I worked there from July till June, or it was like August till June the next year, and we parted ways. I was missing way too much work with the village,
right?
Trying to help everything with the train wreck going on there. So I just, unfortunately, we had, I had to dip into my 401k. I had a great 401k at East Fairfield Coal, and I had to dip a little bit into that. And I took 6 months off to help the community because we didn't have a village manager. We just had to do a perm at the time, and I took some time off to help there. And
I imagine it got pretty hectic.
Oh, it was definitely harder to handle both things.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, I don't know. I guess the people probably think the timing was horrible, I guess. Because right after the derailment happened, then you got the new business, then the new truck. So it looked like something.
Yes, it looked bad. It probably looked bad, but I mean, for people that knew me, the truck was. I drove the truck around for 6 months before the derailment. So it was like, okay, I can see where you're thinking that. But.
Yeah, you're right. Well, good. Hopefully that puts that rumor to rest. And another question I have for you, and maybe you can explain a little better for us, is the park.
Yep.
Are they doing it, or are they not doing it?
They're 100% doing it. It was part of the settlement for the lawsuit that the village had against Norfolk Southern. That we didn't have to go to court. Luckily, we got it worked out before we would have to take it to court. Right. So yes, they're doing it. As far as I know, a lot of people are upset and say that we don't know what we're doing with having a contract. Well, the contract was between Norfolk Southern and Michael Baker. The people that are doing the contract, yes, it was our property, but since we weren't facilitating anything, we just had a memorandum of understanding. So it wasn't a legally binding contract, but in a sense, it held them that they were going to finish the park and do the park, and now it's in a lawsuit, so they have to do the park. Okay. As far as them being over budget, we're working on that. We think that Michael Baker put a lot of good things into the park, but there was some things, little things here and there that add up to big things that they were putting the Cadillac stuff in it. And we're a Chevy Silverado town. We can. It'd be nice to just go right across to Pennsylvania and get pavers that are made right across there by people that possibly live in the area, and use those instead of bringing stuff in from California. So, we're trying. We have a new village manager. I tell you what, we hit the gold mine with this one.
Really,
he's up on everything. If you look at the East Palestine websites, and if you look at the East Palestine information, they're posting more things showing what the village crews are doing, trying to be more transparent, putting the agenda out. The agenda's always been out for the council meetings, but now he's putting it out so people don't have to go to Village Hall to look at it. They can actually, see it right on Facebook. And not everybody has Facebook, so it's still posted, down at Village Hall as it's always been. So,
I think they should have tried to maybe at least replace what they tore out first. Get it presentable, because now we can't even have a fireworks show there this year, and
Beautiful fireworks show.
best fireworks show I've ever been to.
No, the fire department puts that on.
Fire
Right?
department does 100% of it. There's a gentleman that his name is Steve Tingelman. He came on to the fire department. He said, "Why don't?" He said, "You're spending a lot of money. Like it's." I take it to like you can when you take your car to get fixed, you can take it to a backyard mechanic and get it the same stuff done, or you can take it to the dealership and have the same stuff done and spend a little more money.
Yeah.
But we're not having Zambelli do it or somebody like that.
Right.
We're doing it ourselves, so we can afford to spend a little more money on that. I tell you what, those guys are dedicated, and I wish we could film everything they do up there, and it's always hot.
They do a fantastic show every year.
It just gets better and better every year. So they said, "Hey, we can put this on," and he came up with the idea. And we have some guys getting certified now. They were under him, and now they're trying to get their big licenses, so we can shoot everything. Whether he wants to be there or not be there, and he's just a great guy, and he's behind all that fireworks stuff. So
Yeah.
That's great.
It's just it's a great fireworks show. I
Always
enjoy
has
that
been.
every year.
We used to go. I grew up with Tony and his family, so we went there every year.
Absolutely.
The park, we were very disgusted about the progress and how it was going, but they held that up when we were in negotiations because they didn't know what was going to go on and how negotiations were going to turn out. So they decided to hold up some of the buildings. So we are behind definitely, but I saw some of the estimates. All the estimates said with under 300 days to build the pool. So as long as we start on the pool by August, we should be good to go.
I see they put a little pond at the bottom there on the exit.
Yeah, that's a like for drainage for the park because they have to. It's a stormwater pond, so
Retention.
Retention or detention. I don't.
Yeah.
There's a difference, but I don't know what it is. But
Yeah.
anyhow, it's down there, and we got some snow fence around it. But we're eventually going to put fence around it because we're all concerned about the safety of kids playing down there. And it was a little mismanaged there. I will admit for the first time, but we were going through having the interim, getting a village manager, the village manager leaving us, going through another interim, and now back to we have a full time, and he's on the ball. He's got everything going, and he's a great asset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Asset.
There you go.
He was saying at the time of the derailment, you didn't have a village manager.
No, we didn't have a village manager. Mark Trustry was. He left to take a position at the school.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, September-ish. We were actually doing interviews. The Thursday before the train derailment, we did an interview, and then the fateful Friday night in February, we had that, and then we decided it was a really bad time to try to hire a village manager going in the middle of that.
Sure.
It was an uncertain time for us all. We didn't know what was going to happen, so we decided just to wait till after, wait a while, and we did wait a long time, but we did get somebody, and unfortunately it didn't work out with that individual, and we wish the best of him and whatever he does in the future. But we just want to move on as a village, and luckily we have a local guy, Antonio Diaz guy, younger guy, but he's on the ball. I tell you,
Good.
Everybody's happy up there.
Good.
That's good.
Absolutely. And that being said, what is East Palestine going to do other than the park? Because there's a lot of people moving out of town. You know what I mean? They're getting they're packing their things up, getting their kids, and they're out of here. What's East Palestine going to do other than rebuilding the park to try to bring people back into the town and let it thrive like it once did?
That's another area that the new village manager is focusing on. He's working with various businesses. He's been having a lot of meetings with businesses. Can't really get in too deep into the weeds on that. Tell you because we just have to get stuff worked out.
Right.
We are getting. It sounds like we are going to get some development in town, and we're in the spotlight. So we're in the spotlight. People want to come to East Palestine, and we still have a lot of tension in there.
Sure.
It's sort of like us against them mentality. We need to get back on the same page, everybody, and it's going to take some time and build up trust again. But we'll get there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like the Rite Aid building, that's a great building. Is anybody going in there?
Yep. There's a company one in there. It'll be occupied pretty soon.
Oh, really?
So, yep.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah. There's also a pharmacy coming to town. That was some residents in town that got together and they got a pharmacy coming to town. So we got pharmacy also coming to town. So
Awesome. Well, that's a good start.
Yeah.
That is a great
Well,
start.
we touched on something before the podcast even started. We was sitting here bullshitting. Pennsylvania. A lot of people in Pennsylvania are pissed because they say they're not getting the help that they need. But at the same time, you're not the mayor of Darlington or Beaver, PA, and they're kind of coming at you.
yeah.
Why are they coming after you?
I don't know. I mean, it's the same thing as, there's residents in Unity Township, there's residents in Middleton Township too that come after us. That we are, we're the village of East Palestine. In the beginning, it was like we did help, like when the checks came out.
Yeah.
We said, listen, everybody in 4413 and 4441 needs to be getting those checks, and then across PA we can't.
Right.
We did stick up for the residents in the surrounding townships, but like now when it comes to us, like we can't, if it happens outside the village limits, we have no control over it. We can voice our concerns, but when it comes down to it, we can't determine what goes on in those. And
Right.
we've worked with Middleton Township trustees and Unity Township trustees. There's communication lines through there. There wasn't too much at the beginning, only because it was chaos the first 4 or 5 days. We just didn't know if we were coming or going in. So
Right.
So we're starting to get some questions coming in. There was one that's touching on what we're talking about. It says because it happened in East Palestine and none of you warned us. They're saying there was no warning that there was going to be a burn. And the weather is pushing it that
That's
way.
why I brought up before we started the podcast about. Too bad they couldn't have just cooled the tanks.
Right.
And gave people ample time to get stuff ready, get stuff gathered up, and evacuate.
Yeah.
But you had a good answer for that. Go ahead and tell them what that is.
well, so they were worried about contamination too with some of the stuff that was burning already, because there were like the vinyl chloride tankers. There was 4 tankers that got caught on fire or vented and burned. That was it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. There was other cars on fire,
Right.
Yeah.
and there was other tanks that were on fire, but they burned their way out, or they had good seals. But they were worried about the 5 vinyl chloride tanks. And we worked in negotiation. Like the reason that it went later than it was going to is because they were going back and forth with the governors. Were in a room talking. They were going back and forth with the governor saying, so Pennsylvania, the officials had all the information. Whether it went out to properly or not, we were worried about everybody, but we were worried about our residents in Ohio. I'm not saying we weren't worried about PA, but my in-laws at the time, my father-in-law was gone, unfortunately, but my mother-in-law was right across the border in Darlington. She actually my mother-in-law lives closer than I do as mayor of the town, because where they live. So we were worried about them over there, but and as far as I was aware, they evacuated everybody over there, the state police. But it was, like I said, it was ongoing chaos. We didn't know what was going on, and I spent 22 hours a day in the gymnasium of the elementary school the first 5 days, because for after we moved there, we moved a couple times.
Right.
We went from the scene to the police station, and then ultimately the police station was in a 1 mile evacuation zone, so we went to the school, the elementary school, and we were there for 4 or 5 days.
Nice.
So just to clear it up, there was 5 tankers.
There was 5 tankers.
Not 34.
There was not 34 tankers. Now, I don't know how many actual cars burnt. There was a bunch of cars that burnt, but 5 were vented and burnt, and only 1 was full.
Okay. And the Pennsylvania officials had word that this was coming.
The Pennsylvania officials had they were just as much involved as everybody when it came to this.
So do you think the train was just trying to make it to Conway?
That's what they were doing.
And that's why...
My opinion only, yes. I think they were just going to Conway. I don't understand why they didn't stop.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of people that were very negative at first about the train crew, and you can't blame the train crew for that. They're doing what they were told. From
Right, absolutely.
So,
Everybody's got a boss.
yeah, everybody's got a boss, and that's who they were listening to. And
Sure.
I think
Christ, we seen the video in Salem.
Alliance.
Yeah, with
The
the
wheel was
iron.
already hot.
Yeah.
So that I didn't work for Norfolk, but I worked for a company that works with Norfolk for a while. And some of the conductors will tell you, we were told there's no more 45-minute safety checks. Get it down to a half hour. We got freight to move.
And that's another thing I think people uptown are a little upset about is because that's all Norfolk was worried about was getting that train
Getting that
moved.
freight there. Yeah, it's the money.
And
It's the
they
money.
actually started bringing the trains through before the cleanup was even started.
Yeah.
Well, and I wish there was a camera also in command whenever all this was going on. I've said I'm glad it was not in the church and in the elementary school because I called them every cuss word that was imaginable because I was guaranteed that when we lifted that evacuation, they would not run a train through that town until everybody had a chance to get home. Now, it was later in the afternoon, but literally, we got done, we lifted it in the gymnasium of the elementary school, if anybody in the elementary school, but the time we walked to the cafeteria, there was already people trying to come back into town, filming the trains going for town.
Yeah.
Wow. And I was very contentious about that.
And rightfully so.
Just like the park. Like, I know this sounds horrible. We had no idea they were putting stuff in the park till somebody told us because we did not, the village did not okay them putting any dumpsters in the park.
Okay, that brings me another question. Do you think, it's almost like Norfolk Southern came into East Palestine. They didn't wreck the train on purpose. It happens. Unfortunately, it happens. But now that they did, it's almost like they're taking over. Do you understand what I mean? Like, for instance, you just said that they started putting things in the park. You guys had no idea.
Yeah.
They're not even there's no transparency.
Well, it was, I think everybody was so busy. If it wasn't for our street department and our park supervisor, we would have never known they had him in there till after we, came out of, our little cocoon and incident management. Because that's where, you couldn't go down to the train station. You couldn't go on the east side of town. So it was chaos going on. But, I think they wanted to get the mess cleaned up.
Get out of town.
I think
they started to rebuild the tracks over the contaminated burn pits. Is that correct?
Yes and no. It was just like the edge of the contaminated burn pits. Yes, they filled them back in, and then they were going to come back and get it once they cleared the track, is what they told us. But that's when we said, wait a second, something's not right here. And we, that's when we went and started saying, this isn't right.
You're right.
And then that's when we got the EPA more involved,
Sure.
because they were there the whole time. That was like, everybody was trying to blame the village. Wait a second, the EPA was there, and they have a lot more power than we do.
Right.
And that's when we worked with those people, Deborah Shore, and we got her involved, and then that's when they said, hold on, we're going to dig this up. And then that's when,
Are they still digging? Are they still pulling contaminants out of there?
what they're doing is they're spot checking.
Yeah.
So all the contaminants from the train wreck are gone that was in the train wreck area. Okay. Now they got all that cleaned up. Now they're coming back and they're doing spot stuff, and they're finding, they found a powder or flour. It's semolina powder. Like, you'll see it on spaghetti and some other things where it says it's flour for baking.
Right.
But they found that, and it was causing a yeasty smell, and there was stuff there. So now they're digging that up. And
Now that's what everybody uptown was.
yeah, so they're hitting hot spots, and there's definitely legacy stuff from before, but there's also stuff from the train that I'm sure there was pockets of little things here and there, and they've done. I mean, if you go up there, it's just a sea of little pink flags. So.
Giving a phone number here.
Is there any more questions online somebody wants to ask?
Well, they're just going off about a lot of them are going on about the letter that's coming in. Do you have any?
He don't have.
That's all in Norfolk.
Well,
Right? The letters.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
The letters to get your money from the
To
train.
get your money. Yeah.
Kroll,
So,
right?
What?
Kroll?
Yeah, Kroll is who's distributing the money. So let's be clear, the village had a lawsuit, and we got a judgment of $22 million of some property, finished the park. That has nothing to do with the money people did. We tried to stay out of the class action with the money because of the personal injury payments is what we're getting now. We tried to stay out of that, but everybody was upset that we weren't doing more. Well, we didn't have a dog in the fight, and we didn't want to push the issue with them because we didn't, we just weren't part of it.
Right.
So, and that we took advice from our lawyers to stay out of it and all that. Well, finally, we just had enough. So that's when I said, I brought up on February 3rd of this year, this is ridiculous because they said the payments were going out. I called a couple people 4 weeks ago, a month ago now. The guy said that within 6 weeks all the payments were out. Well, that unless they're going to pour some miracle in the next 2 weeks, that's not going to happen either.
You're right.
But yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
As far as I know, nobody on village council has got their money yet that I know, but we also don't talk about it much. I personally have not. My wife, my parents have not. They live down here, so none of us have got our money. And it just seems there's no rhyme or reason. And I sort of went over to the guy. So why didn't you start with ground zero and work your way out? Why is somebody in Canfield that shouldn't have been part of this anyhow? Because nobody in Canfield was affected by this.
Right.
Negley, Palestine, Darlington, that's the people that should have got their money first. That was who was hurt by this.
Yeah, exactly. That's what, and you watched our first episode. That's what we brought up. It's like either start from the outside and work yourself in, or you think they would start from the inside, work out, or go alphabetically. Whatever. But I mean, like I said in the first episode, there's people that's gotten their money already 10 miles, 6 miles out.
I know people that are in Elkton that have been paid.
And there's people in town don't get a letter yet.
I know a good friend of ours, residents in his house, 2 of them got their letters and he hasn't. And they're the same residents. So it's just, like you said, I don't think there's no rhyme or reason. It's just,
and the money people are getting, like,
I think this is a call for you, Mr. Mayor. Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Is this Unchained?
It sure is. Welcome to the show. You're live.
Thank you. My question for Trent is, he was talking about how the village did not get involved in this class action lawsuit. But, however, they did have the old village manager moderate a town hall that the attorneys for the class action were putting on, where they had a scientist who declared there would be 0 cases of cancer and 0 long-term health risk to the community. This toxicologist actually worked for Chevron. He worked for Exxon, Dow Chemicals, and a slew of other corporate polluters. So why was it okay to get involved when the attorneys were trying to lie to residents to get them to sign up for this lawsuit, but it's not okay to get involved now when people are waiting on their money?
well, the reason he did that is beyond record. I don't know. We all agreed we weren't going to do anything. And I don't know why he did. Was he the only person from village council or from the village that did that? Because he should have had no, we made it clear to everybody. I had no idea he did that. Of course, I didn't know a lot of stuff he did. So
you didn't know that he moderated the town hall meeting?
I had no idea, Jamie. I would never. Nope. I had no idea.
Because you could tell he was completely uncomfortable doing it, and I was told that he was made to do it by the village government.
No.
So that's why I was asking, because I just find it real weird that, like I said, that you involve yourself when it comes to lying to your residents, but now no one wants to stick up for these people that need their money.
No. He. We did not know. I did not know, and I would assume if you asked most of council that was there at the time, they didn't know. But no.
Are you guys responsible for managing the village manager?
Yes, we are. Well, they are. I'm the mayor. But the council is, yes, definitely. But
you're president of council, right?
yeah, but I'm not a member of council if you read the chart.
So you you have no say-so over the village manager position?
I have zero say-so over the manager's position. I have
Okay,
zero.
I'll ask village council then.
Yes, Jamie. I try to always be truthful with you, and I had no idea he did that. This is the first time hearing of that, and he shouldn't have done it because we were advised by our legal counsel just to stay out of it. Because it gets. Go ahead.
Tracy works for Norfolk Southern.
Tracy has never worked for Norfolk Southern. She never will work for Norfolk Southern. She worked for us, the Village of East Palestine, as a consultant. I can't tell you what the wage is, but it's out there if you want to look it up. She worked less than at the beginning, maybe like 20 hours. She might have had like some 30-hour weeks, but for the last couple months, she only works like 1 day a week, and she will be done working the last day of April, I do believe.
Right. And my last question is my same question always: is why isn't there a bigger stake about human health? Like I feel like you say that you guys are working on something. Well, I mean, you should let your constituents know if you're working on it.
Well,
number one. And number two, I invite you to go with us back to DC when we go at the end of the summer and talk to some of our politicians. I know you're just a part-time mayor, but your voice is louder than ours is.
Well, I will be at the White House.
Talk to these people, so
I'm going to be at the White House in the next couple weeks. I'm not going to say the exact date. I don't like telling people when I'm out of town, but I will be at the White House within the next couple weeks.
do you know what the residents want to advocate for us?
I know what some of the residents want, yes. I also know that health is my primary objective, to make sure that it's covered in some way. And like I said, the reason we haven't came out and said everything is because if we come out and say we want this and then we don't get that, then we're liars. Just like now everybody's saying it's my fault that they're not getting their checks, and we purposely tried to stay out of everybody's business. And, I had no idea he did that. If I would have known, I would have, definitely said something, and that wasn't right. That, we should not have been part of that at all.
The transparency, Trent. People want to know that you're fighting with them. It doesn't matter if you win or you lose, but just the fact that you're fighting and that you're going to try to get health care for us, people need to know that. And we might also have ideas that you don't know that we could give you. But I will email you the copy of the letter that I took with me last time I went to DC. And it is a letter that I actually had residents write letters to me saying what they wanted so that I could represent. And it at least represents the people that got back to me. The other thing that we really need is money for the research. People say, well, they just want to study us. They might, but we're guinea pigs. And if we don't let them study us, guess what the next community is going to be? They're going to be guinea pigs. People that say we'll never be able to prove in 20 years that this is from the derailment, these illnesses, we can, and we could if we do the research. But I will send that to you, and thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. Send me that, and also let me know if I can work it into my schedule. I do have, I know I'm not saying I'm a part-time mayor. I have a full-time job, and if I can work it in that I can go down with you guys and, help out any way I can, I can try. So if not, I can work behind the scenes through Vance's office and some other, offices I have. So, okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you very much for the call, Jamie.
So that was I would have announced her, but I had no idea who that was.
Yeah.
When that first answer.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry, Jamie.
like we said, we're shooting from the hip here. This is, we're answering questions as they come in. We got the phone number here. We don't have your name and number. So we gotta screen it on the fly.
I got a question. Back to what we were talking about before the phone call. Oh, wait a minute, we have another one. Okay. B&B Unchained.
Hi. I don't know if my call is coming through today, but playing on one phone and called from another phone.
Yes, you're here with. We're here with Mr. Mayor Trent Conaway.
I'd like to know what he's done to investigate the health impact, short and long term.
What was the question?
Could you repeat that, please?
I'd like to know what Trent has done to investigate the health concerns, both short and long term, to be prepared for what he is considering, because there's a lot to take into consideration.
Not understanding.
Confused.
Yeah. I mean, we've been working with our partners through the state health board, the county health board a little bit, mainly the state, working with East Liverpool City Hospital on getting the clinic there, trying to get as much information as we can. We're trying to put a little more focus on, or a little more pressure on the CDC, trying to help us out there. We didn't get much help with the last administration, but we're trying. I hope to bring that up when I'm down in Washington. Try to
Do you
get
think
this.
that's enough? I mean, do those agencies have a good history of actually protecting human health? If we look back on COVID and how that was handled, and we could search back through history, what do you think their reputation is?
I have to go with the agencies that I can contact, that we have the ability to contact, and that's where the funding is for us, with like the NIH and some of those different organizations. That's where they get the funding. So
There's lots of instances from history that can be looked back upon, and lots of professionals that would gladly speak to anyone who was interested to help make everybody more aware, so we could make more informed decisions.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take that into consideration, right?
yeah, absolutely, yeah. We can. I can put them. I can put your people in contact with the people that I can ask, and hopefully we can work together with something.
Because my fear is that people are trusting that initial component safe, and they're not going to get the early intervention with something a little wonky. They're going to assume it's age because the doctors have all been instructed not to acknowledge anything. And that clinic downtown's a joke.
So
They laughed at my mother. They wrote HIPAA with her, with me. It was just absolutely a waste of time. I used to encourage everybody to go down there. Not anymore.
Is that the Mercy Health Clinic?
No,
No, that's the
River.
Liverpool Health Clinic where the podiatrist used to be.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about, up towards Unity.
So you're saying that, this is Anthony, by the way, you're saying that the doctors have been instructed not to talk about, or diagnose anybody with anything leading to the derailment?
That is what many people were told. Somebody even had a recording of their doctor explaining that to them.
I'd like to hear that recording.
I know many people, if you say this, I feel like this is related, this is different, I didn't have this before. I mean, my mother has been chuckled at. Oh, no, it couldn't be that. She developed, they're not sure. They have it, one doctor has it as COPD, one has it as emphysema, but she's developed serious respiratory problems. Since she came home in April, they weren't even here during the derailment, they were snowbirds.
So
And when she asked the doctor, when he said she had non-contagious pneumonia, she said, wait, could this be related to what happened here? And he just chuckled and said, oh, no. And she didn't have that problem prior. And after that, she had to stop walking her dogs because she could not breathe outside many days.
now, this is a genuine question because I don't know. Had your mom ever smoked or been around people that smoked?
My mother has risk factors, but she did not have any breathing problems prior to this. So instantly developing breathing problems
So does that mean she
within
smoked?
coming back is definitely a red flag.
Right.
You
So
didn't have it when you left, and you didn't have it while you were gone, and then it develops very suddenly once you returned. That is not normal.
well, yes, I am no doctor, so I'm not going to argue with you. I just wanted to, I didn't know if your mom smoked in the past.
Many people have many different risk factors. But, for doctors to chuckle at her and say, oh, no.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's not okay.
Question about their health.
Right.
And for a doctor to stand there and do that is...
I agree.
You don't even want to go back. But
Yeah.
then you have the whole community jumping on everybody the same way.
Right.
You know what's happening with your body. Most people do. I mean, there are people who have never been sick, and then they think it's just aging. But
Right.
a lot of people are really in touch with their body, and they are aware when things change. It's pretty obvious.
Well, I am sorry to hear about your mother.
No.
But we do have another call coming in.
We appreciate you
Alright,
calling.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for calling.
Bye.
B&B Unchained, you're live on air. B&B Unchained, you're live on air.
Hi, how are you today?
I am fine. How are you?
I'm great. I'm interested to hear everything that's being said on the podcast today. Always nice to hear information.
Thank you. Can we have your name?
Yeah, Jessica Healthy.
Okay. Jessica, I'll give you over to Mr.
So within the 1 mile there, and always eager to hear more updates about this.
Okay. Do you have a question for the mayor?
I do. I posted something in the comments. I suppose first we should establish that a lot of things are hearsay around town. So I would like to ask questions rather than point fingers first. Yeah.
Sure.
To get a good understanding as to what's going on. It's my understanding. I've heard that our mayor, among other elected officials, has signed non-disclosure agreements in regard to the train derailment. My first question would be: is that accurate?
No. The only thing I signed a non-disclosure agreement with was the settlement, the negotiations of the settlement we did. But anything else I can talk about. I just can't talk about how the negotiations in the settlement went.
Okay, and I know you're not allowed to, give details of it, obviously, but what would be the reason that somebody who essentially represents all of the residents of town would have to sign a non-disclosure in regards to damage claims for the residents they're representing, without you obviously giving details that you aren't able to give?
The reason we signed that is just how we went about the negotiations, like in the actual negotiations, like, how we got to the 22 and where it started and where it ended. But as far as the claims, everything that came out, you can go down to the village and they'll give you a copy of everything that, the whole, because we are a public entity, so there's, we have to be able to give details of, what happened. It's just the actual in the negotiations when we were up there in Cleveland doing the negotiations and, some of the meetings we had in town. That's the only thing we can't talk about.
Okay, that's good to know because there is a lot of chatter about you personally signing non-disclosure agreements, which would withhold information from people. So that's why I like to ask. But that's not true. That's very great to know.
Yeah, no, we can answer anything. You just can't ask, who was in the room within the negotiations for the other team, and you can't ask like how we came to the. Well, you can ask. I just can't answer. I guess I should say it's how we came to the conclusion of just the settlement for the village, but everything that came out of the settlement is all disclosed. I've delivered copies to a couple of residents. They can look at it and see everything in it. It's a 3 or 4 page report. If you're interested in how that goes down and what everything that was said and how it affects the park and everything, you can definitely get a copy down at Village Hall.
Okay, that's an excellent start. My next question is, although the cleanup of all the chemicals is obviously forefront in everybody's mind, a close second would be the undoing of our park right now and the procrastination of that, or delay, whatever the technical term would be here. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm just trying to word everything rightly here, but
You're doing fine.
It's my understanding that there is absolutely no legal agreement in regard to the park renovation or binding contract or anything holding, essentially in your words, Norfolk Southern's feet to the fire. I'm wondering, is that accurate, or was there paperwork or an agreement that was not upheld on someone's end?
No. So what it was is, since we weren't paying any of the money, there was no contract per se. There was a contract between Michael Baker and the village.
Who's Michael Baker?
Michael Baker is the design firm that is designing the park. That's
Okay.
who. They're doing is designing and the engineering of the park. So they have a contract because Norfolk Southern's paying it. That's who has the contract. We have what they call a memorandum of understanding with Norfolk Southern that they will do what they said they will do in the park. And now we technically have a contract because it was part of the settlement agreement that they will do everything they said they will do and give us the amount of money they said they would give us. So we in turn have a contract. It's just not an actual contract, if that makes any sense. It's a settlement agreement saying this is what they'll do, and if they don't, then we can take them to court because they broke the settlement agreement.
Okay, that's great to hear. And then my last question would be, I've seen a lot of people in our local Facebook groups with concerns about our water quality, specifically for different things that are going on. Somebody's reading high levels of this or high pressure here, air bubbles. What are there any public results for what our local city water, like if there's any contamination? And even if it's calcium or rust or whatever, where can we access those?
Okay, so
Chemicals, or the chemicals that may or may not be there, are those on record as well?
yes, ma'am. If you walk inside the village hall, as soon as you walk into the second set of glass doors and turn to your right, there is a water quality report that we have to put out, and it's right there. There's many copies of it. You can grab it. It's a thick bundle of papers, and it'll tell you everything that they find in the water. We also do testing now. I'm pretty sure it's still once a week. There for a while it was once a day, but now it's once a week or once a month. And it's still very aggressive testing compared to what we did before the derailment. We were only doing it tri-annually unless there was a major repair. So we only had to test your water for all this stuff, every 3 years. But now we've done it we're doing it every month. And during the derailment, we were doing it every week and sometimes every day during those first couple days. Also,
Okay, that's very reassuring, but I need to ask who's doing the testing, because a lot of trust has been broken as far as what entities are doing the testing and if they are trustworthy entities, especially after the EPA false readings of safe air after the derailment.
well, right now we do our own testing in-house. The gentleman that does it is an East Palestine graduate, lives in the village of East Palestine. His parents live in East Palestine.
So he's invested.
Yeah, he's 100% invested. He lets his kids drink his water. He lets his wife drink his water. I've drank in the water. I know people don't believe me, but I've drank it every day since the derailment. That's all I drink. That's what we make our iced tea with, our coffee with, shower with, bathe with, cook with. I believe him when he says the water's clean. The water's clean.
All right.
But yes, there's a report out there, and you're free to go down and get it any time. If there's not enough copies, they will make more copies for you. And like I said, it's a thick little packet that tells you everything. There's a lot of stuff that you can't understand. If there's anything you can't understand, I'm sure we can make an appointment with somebody in the water department to explain stuff if you have any concerns. But as of right now, we have not seen anything in the village water to be concerned.
At no point you've detected any of the benzene or other chemicals that have come from the derailment that you were none of the ones that raised red flags. You guys haven't come across this in the city water yet?
Not a one.
All right, that's very reassuring to know. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. And yes, the rumor mill is bad up there. We're trying our best to stop that. So.
Absolutely. All right, thank you so much. Have
Thank
a good
you
day.
for your
Have-
call.
have a great night.
Appreciate the information.
Yeah,
All right.
good. So the questions are still coming in live. Just quick ones. There's some real winners on here. I don't know what you guys are thinking, that if you're gonna talk like that, that we're just gonna put it on air. Clean your act up a little bit.
Well, yeah, we're not even going to bring that up. We're not even going to acknowledge that. Yeah. We don't put up with that.
So, did you agree not to speak badly about Norfolk Southern in any way, shape, or form? Is that
There's a non-disparaging agreement about the settlement.
okay?
It's just the settlement. I can say whatever I want.
About the company?
Yeah.
Okay. That was one of the questions. It's coming up a couple of times here. Just to clarify, 5 were burnt off, 34 total derailed.
34 derailed.
Okay.
I used to know the numbers by heart. I'm sorry I don't
Yeah.
know them anymore. But yes, it was from car
Yeah.
this to such and such. They pulled the engine in some cars to Conway, and they pulled the other ones back.
Back
to
out.
another.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, you're gonna read some of these comments, and it's just almost comical. But
Well, we knew this was going to happen.
yeah, keep it respectful, and we'll ask the mayor what you want to know. Other than that, it's not going to work.
No, and I do have a question back before we start getting phone calls, which thank everybody for your phone calls. I really appreciate them. You said that the city was awarded $22 million. Okay, was it for the park or just for anything?
So the park's separate. The $22 million was unencumbered funds that we can use. That was for all the damages that the village,
Okay.
not the people in the village, the residents. It's the village.
So the train depot, the money didn't come out of that.
No, we just
Norfolk did that on their own.
Norfolk did 100% of the train depot on their own. It was a local contractor that did it. The numbers they spent on it, I have no idea. And
I was told 1.7.
Yeah, I have no idea what they spent on it.
The big stink everybody is talking about with the train depot is there's no way redoing the inside and outside of that little building costs $1.7 million.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah, so
Sure.
they wanted to know where it went.
With that being private contractors and stuff, that's tough to.
Well, it's none of our it's none of our business.
Exactly.
It's like
When it
you
comes
can't go to your
down to it.
neighbor and say,
Right.
what did it charge? Now,
Yeah,
whenever we take it, when we take possession of it,
Yeah.
then anything we do, it's public record what we
Public, yeah.
spend and how we.
yeah. There was a video posted a while back. A guy, pretty well-known guy, brought that up, and I thought, man, he's right. There's no way in hell that's $1.7 million worth of work right there.
I'll tell you what, that'd be some good work.
Yeah, it was not village money. It was not anything in the settlement. The only part of the settlement is they're going to give us that. The train depot. They're going to give us the where the training center, the possible training center was going to
Right.
be. All that down by the old JSAR property. They're going to give that to the village. That'll be in village. That was part of the settlement, and $22 million in unencumbered funds that we can use.
So the Norfolk building right beside the tracks there, that's not the train?
No, that's Norfolk's building. They put a building in town.
Oh,
So
that's a nice building. They redid that pretty nice.
yeah, it is. It looks really nice. Fake brick on the outside, and I tell you what, you barely can tell.
Wow, really?
Wow,
It's
that
just
does
panels.
look good.
It's just panels. I thought they
I
did.
didn't know that.
Whoever did it did a good job.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the train depot, that's a cool building. A lot of history right there. So, yeah, I mean, that's cool that they redid it.
Yeah, it looks great. It really
Yeah,
does
at
look
least,
good.
yeah.
After I seen that video, I actually went down because like I said, we just moved into town. Me and my wife. I lived like 5 minutes away from that building, so I went down. I got out and walked around it, checked everything out. They did a hell of a job.
Yeah.
Everything looks great, but yeah, I don't see the 1.7 mil.
They used some local contractors too.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Yeah,
Somebody got hurt painting it.
yeah,
Yeah, I heard.
He's doing better, and I'm glad.
Yeah, so to the contractors you did do the train depot, great job.
Great job.
Yeah, good job.
That was actually, I mean, we could say it. Dynamic Structures.
Yeah.
They do great work.
And Figley painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. I think they did a fabulous
Great job, guys.
So this lady wants to know what we're talking about now. The Norfolk Southern building beside the tracks. What is the function of it? What is it for?
To my knowledge, I've only been in it a couple times. There's like a hazmat person in there that just because it's the new building, so it's an office for there. It's just somebody drives around, and there's I think a couple people from the claims department in there, and they handle anything in town as
Yeah.
far as claims with. I don't think residents. It's like business and stuff. And then there's I think there's a liaison or something for the village, but it's
So Norfolk's here for the long haul. I mean, they're
well, they're I don't know about I don't know. If
They put a building
Yeah,
on it,
it's their, yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, there's
Is it?
4 or 5 people I think working on it.
Is that the old Britain
yes.
Yeah.
building?
It was Tom owned it, but it was the old Ford
Yeah.
garage is what was there.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to clarify for this lady, Jessica, that is the old Britain's building that we're referring to, that he just answered.
Palm Britain.
Yeah. Speaking of Britons, before my wife got hurt, we were going to get down there and do business with him because we want to try to stay give local business. The sprinkles on top, the little
Right.
diner in town,
Great business.
awesome business. The candle company, Sparkle. We try to stay local.
And don't forget about Tom's.
Yeah, Tom's Tire,
Great.
best place around. Still pump your gas, old school. You're not going to find that nowhere
No,
else.
find that somewhere else.
Yeah, you're not going to find it nowhere else.
You know what I like about Tom's Tire?
What's that?
You can send your wife down there and know she'll be taken care of.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
my dog, I have a teenage daughter.
Yeah.
I have no problem sending her down there. I know she'll be treated with respect and she'll do
Absolutely.
a good job. And,
Yep.
Well, that just
treated
speaks
right.
volumes of the kind of business that Harry runs.
His nephew works there.
Yeah, Clayton.
Clayton works there. Good kid.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we were gonna try to do business at Britain, but my wife had an accident, broke her knee. She's off work now, but man, it just seems like Britain used to be, back in the day, it was just this big giant car dealership, and it's kind of dwindling away, sadly.
Well, they still do. I mean, they still do business there. I've
Oh,
done
yeah.
some
I
dealer
think
trades there.
they do a lot of online ordering. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still full go. They were just up for an award
Really?
because the Corey's going to take over as the next generation, and it was
Okay.
through the Youngstown Warren Chamber of Commerce. I went to a dinner with them, and
Wow.
they were up for an award with some very big places and very big names. Unfortunately,
Excellent.
they didn't win, but
Yeah.
no, they do a lot of ordering. I mean, that's the only place we buy our vehicles. And,
Yeah, that's where we're
I
going.
mean, you can't beat the service.
Yeah.
We live right up the street from them, but and I went to school with a lot of them that work down there. I mean, if you need picked up, they'll come pick you up, and they're on the ball. When my son had a wreck, and they were like, absolutely bring it down here. I said, I don't know what we're gonna do with it, and Corey's like, just bring it down here, and put it in sidelots, no big deal. We got
Yeah.
plenty of space.
Right.
I mean, it's just community first. They donate so much money through the Chevy Dealers Association. And, I mean, it's just a great business in town, and
Absolutely.
we want more businesses. 1820 has great business. We talked about Tom's Tire. Harry does a hell of a job down there.
Yes,
I mean,
he does.
there's a bunch of little businesses. Sprinkles on Top's always busy.
Always.
The Roadhouse. I've ate more at the Roadhouse in the last couple of years than I ever did
I
before.
heard it's one of the best breakfasts in town.
You can't be, especially since D&D shut down. I mean, I miss that place.
Oh,
I used to
man. Dutch
Oh,
Donuts. Yeah. That was the spot.
If I get the recipe for their sausage and gravy,
Yeah.
oh, that's fat kid heaven.
Yeah.
But,
Yes, sir.
But yeah, no, there's so many good businesses in town, and I know a lot of people are upset that we're focusing on the businesses and not focusing on the people, but we are focusing on the people. We want good businesses in town for them. There's definitely health concerns out there, and we want to help address those in any way we can. But we also have to watch how we do that, and we have to rely on the people that we can contact and get a hold of. And a lot of times, like the earlier caller, they don't necessarily trust them. And I feel bad for them. They don't.
I just think, like I said in our previous podcast that we had, I just think the people of East Palestine just want something good to happen for them.
Yes,
Sure.
Let's get something good out of this.
Sure.
we need
Yeah.
a win. We really need a win for the whole
Yes.
village. And I don't know what that'll be, but we're working on it diligently every day, and we're going to get something. We're going to get.
So I got another question from Facebook. Did Norfolk Southern pay for the 16 acres on North Market Street where the new city building is going?
Yes, they did.
They did.
We thought that's the least they could do for everything
Well,
in
that's
town.
cool.
So
Sure.
they picked up that.
Sure.
We got a USDA grant for a bunch of it, and we're working on getting funding through the federal government for the rest of it. We're going to try to make it so the village residents, it doesn't raise their taxes or do anything like that. We
Right.
want to be able to build it and have a nice new facility. And the reason we're doing that is it's outside the 1 mile radius in case there would ever be a train wreck on this side of the tracks. We're trying to get everything out. There's going to be a dispatch center up there just like downtown, so it'll be a backup for the county. In case a problem happens.
Right.
It's going to be a nice facility, and we're going to be able to run everything out of there. And like if anything bad would ever happen again, a car wreck or something. I'm not even going to bring up another train wreck, but something would happen.
Yeah.
We need to evacuate people. We're going to have a room up there to help do that.
So we touched on it earlier. The old Rite Aid building.
Yeah.
You said that's going to be occupied here shortly.
I'm not going to
Right.
say what it's going to be because I don't know if everybody knows and what's going on, but as soon as we get the okay, we'll announce what's coming in there. So.
Okay, so that's cool. So that's a nice building, big building.
That's what we want. We want it to grow again, so bring them in.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's great. Let's see here. We've run through a few of these. We're pretty much getting them.
I got to ask. I mean, this has nothing to do with town, but everything. But what was it like to speak at the convention?
Oh yeah.
Dude, that had to have been nerve-wracking.
It was. So we flew out on a Tuesday morning at like 3:00. I didn't eat dinner at Tuesday night. And I didn't speak till I think it was Wednesday night or Thursday. I forget what night I spoke. I think it was Wednesday.
I think it was too. Yeah.
I spoke Wednesday night, and I didn't eat anything during it. Like I was drinking a little bit of water, but I mean my nerves were so. Oh, and then you go in the green room in the back, and there's all these people. There's a lot of people you recognize. Right. You just don't know their names, but you see them on television. Newt Gingrich was back there on his back there. Tom Abbott, the governor, and I'm a kid from Negley. That's so I wasn't used to it, and it was walking out on stage is probably the scariest I've ever been. But
you did great.
Once you get out there, they have a huge television. Your speech is on the teleprompter. Screen. Yeah, teleprompter, and it's on the back wall, and then there's ones here, and
wow.
There was, I saw, we rode with Kanye West's old girlfriend, Amber something, I forget what her name was.
Wow.
We were in an elevator with her at the hotel, and I said, how was your speech? How did it go? She said, great. She goes, just look ahead, don't look at those side prompters. Amber Rose, that's who it was. And my kids, I had no idea who she was. My kids
were starstruck.
Yeah, my kids were like, that's awesome! We took pictures, and it was. I know it was awe-inspiring. It was awesome. But I mean, the best part wasn't me on stage. The best part was sitting in the audience and Hulk Hogan comes out on Thursday. I mean, that was just awesome. The president,
did you get to meet Dana White?
No, but he was like 10 or 15. We were right. There's like the VIP section.
Yeah. And
we were right beside them, like where President Trump was sitting on the big stool and stuff, or the big chair. We were right beside them. But I saw the governor in the background, him and his wife. I gave them a big hug. Nice. It was awesome. Good. And I got to meet his grandkids. But it was just seeing Hulk Hogan come out there and get. It was like it was literally like a 9-year-old eating breakfast. Watching wrestling in the morning.
Well, that's how I was. I was like, man, it's nice seeing a local boy. On the big stage.
Absolutely.
That was awesome. You did great, though.
Yeah, that was something else. How about J.D. Vance's last visit? Is he sticking with it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
He's one of the ones. So I remember when Pete Buttigieg came here.
Yep.
He came here at 6 o'clock in the morning before the town was even awake and was out of town by 6:30.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he was afraid to answer questions and have people get in his ass. So when JD came, it was a lot different. It felt a lot different.
So Pete was a great guy.
Yeah.
As far as personality and just like President Biden.
Yeah.
He was a gentleman, and I fully believe he wasn't running the country then when he came. But he was a gentleman. He was, shook my hand, and it was like sitting there with your grandpa listening to the stories, and that's all he wanted to talk about. Yeah. J.D. Vance is a stand-up guy. I like the fact that he cusses like a sailor.
Yes. That's how you know you can trust somebody.
Yeah, I like the fact that he has a German Shepherd, and people said, I heard that he did an interview too where they said that's his dog.
Yeah.
Like, he loves it.
Yeah.
We were petting it when he brought it, and he brought his wife, and she's very, very wonderful woman. Very nice to meet her, and like he's just a down home. You can tell he's just a Negley kid. What I mean? He's just,
military boy.
Yeah, he just a really nice guy, and I definitely hope that he runs for the president after this term, and Trump is a hell of a guy. Trump is hilarious. I can't say exactly when he called right before Joe's visit, and you talk about. I was in stitches. I was crying so hard it was hard to understand him. What the stuff he was saying. He's just a great guy, and behind the scenes when he visited that time, like he's really what got this whole ball rolling with the government and getting people in. And Rudy Giuliani was a great guy. He came in town too. It's like, I mean, you never realize, you know, these guys are normal people behind the curtain.
sure.
You know, they put their pants on just like us. So.
Think how many people you've gotten to meet since this.
Yeah, it's great, and
Luke Grimes.
Yeah, that was awesome. That's when I met you and your wife.
Yeah,
that was. I don't know.
That was cool.
And people think I'm uppity, but I'm as redneck as they get. Like, I'm an angry kid that's the mayor of East Palestine. Like, I'm just in, like, this is awesome. I'm starstruck. Like,
you're starstruck like the rest of us.
Yes.
You know?
Somehow you got to keep your cool.
Yeah. And be professional and not.
Yeah. You can tell Trump he's a New Yorker. He's got that swagger about him.
He's a no-nonsense president, and that's what I like about him.
Yeah.
His son, Don Jr. is great, too.
Really? I bet
he's
he is.
Hilarious, really nice guy.
That's cool.
He came with him. And everybody in that staff is just, they're just good people.
And look at Barron. What's he, like, 6'9"?
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah, I mean, that's so awesome, the people you got to meet. You know, unfortunately because of this derailment, but...
and I got a lot of flack for talking at the convention. Because people were upset that I'm not, I was at the Republican convention. I was representing our town, but I wasn't. I was there for, like, me.
Yeah.
I was just saying my story and what happened. I understand there's a lot of Democrats that live in East Palestine. Good for them. Like, I've never.
Yeah, but you didn't get invited to the Democratic convention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would have went. But
the Republicans gave you the platform.
Yeah.
And so I took it and, I spoke, and I just, it's turned political horribly. I mean, this has turned, like, at first I was trying to stay out of the politics, but, therefore,
It's hard.
It's hard. Eventually, you just have to give in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, some of the people are not happy about JD's visit. Some are.
Well, what do they like about it?
I asked her to elaborate a little bit. I haven't got the response yet, but I'm not sure if it's just the political parties.
Because it's just...
I don't know yet. So
He talked about health, but he didn't talk about health as much as a lot of people in town wanted him to talk about it.
Okay.
He talked about getting the business community is a strong part of our community too, and it's hard to, we need businesses to survive and the town to survive, but we also need residents to survive. So
Sure.
you're in a rock and a hard place, and like I said, we're working with the Department of Justice, and we're trying to get, make sure that healthcare is covered, or at least if they can, if it's training derailment, it's covered, related, it's covered. So
Yeah.
I know that Donald Trump put the biggest order of Big Macs in McDonald's up there.
Yeah, that's cool.
that was a funny story too. I was supposed to ride over there with you, and I'm like, nope, I'm not. I get enough crap for being fat. I
That's all you need.
I wish I would have been there and seen their face when he walked in.
The funny thing is, and you're not going to see it on mainstream, like Channel 27, 21, and all that. Trump, we've seen, he went to a lot of predominantly black communities and walk into McDonald's and buy everybody in there food, and these, young black ladies and men were just beside themselves. They loved him. So for him to be called a racist all the time is just, that's in one ear and out the other at this point.
Well, and I don't mean because of him being president. I mean just as a person.
Yeah.
He don't, I don't know. He would know a lot more than I would. He's got to talk to him. He's had that privilege, but, it's just, I just don't understand it.
The criminal charges against Norfolk, are they, I can't tell what this says, but are they presuming it?
Resuming?
I'm not sure if she spelled that right or what not, but criminal charges against Norfolk, or what I'm thinking she's saying is, are they still going after that? Like, are they still going to charge Norfolk?
I don't know. I know there's still an ongoing. I forget what are
The charges?
Well, I don't know if it's charges or it's just saying that they're making sure that they're holding them accountable.
Held accountable.
In case anything ever happens.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And then there's still another round with the state. There's the Department of Justice federally, and then there's the state Attorney General is going after him too. So.
Okay, good. Yeah, pursuing. Yeah, she just clarified that. Are they pursuing it? Yeah. A lot of Brighton Township, a lot of PA people are pissed, but I don't think these guys were on here when we touched on that. You're not the mayor of Brighton Township. Brighton Township, Beaver Township, all the city officials were aware that the burn was going to happen.
Yeah,
Everybody over there, the state police, the Department of Health in Pennsylvania, the governor of Pennsylvania, they all knew what was going on. They didn't do anything till both states had to sign off on it.
Right.
Our governor, DeWine, was adamant that both states know what's going on and how it was going to be done and make sure everybody was evacuated. I know there was a lot less people in PA as far as within the 1 mile area to evacuate, but if you noticed, when they did the one evacuation, they took it like 2 miles long and it was only a mile wide, so it went into Pennsylvania more. But yeah, I mean, everybody, all Beaver County was there with us the entire time.
Right.
They were in the room with us the entire time, so they knew what was going on. So
yeah, anybody that don't live in East Palestine, get a hold of your local officials. And if you got questions about the derailment, and if you're getting anything or whatever it is, get a hold of your officials, and I'm sure they'll know, or they'll tell you if they know.
So that answered a lot of questions. I think it's the people coming on after we already addressed that. The governor, he was notified. The PA governor, Ohio governor, they both had to sign off on things, before this happened. Warnings should have been put out.
We were supposed to vent and burn earlier in the day, and we only had like so long because they wanted it to be completely done venting and burning before nightfall, like the majority of it, so they knew, they could sort of track where everything was going. And they were in the room in the village. It was our governor, and Pennsylvania's governor, and both directors of health. They were on the phone, and they were going back and forth how it was going to be handled. The Pennsylvania State Police knew, Beaver County knew, because they all found out we were all in the same room. So there was a representative from everybody in the same room.
This lady asked, how long did it take to sign off on this? I'm figuring what she wants to know is, they made the decision, and then within what time frame did the governor say, okay, let's
Was it the governor
this?
or was it the EPA that made this decision on that?
The final decision is the fire chief.
The Chief
Draven.
Yeah, okay.
But that's what the Ohio Revised Code says.
Okay.
Did he make the decision 100% on his own? Absolutely
No,
not.
of course
We
not.
had both governors. We had both Department of Health, the EPA. We had the Ohio National Guard did all the modeling of where the plume was going to go. They also did the modeling if this would blow up, how far it would be out, and it was like a mile circle that could have been leveled, depending on how. Because I don't know, like what you asked earlier with cooling, you can cool some of those cars, but I don't know if you've ever seen those cars. It's like, no, don't quote me on thickness because I could be off.
Right.
It's like 5/8 on the inside, okay, and then there's like 4 inches of insulation, and then there's like 1/4 inch steel on the outside. Right. So it's hard to sort of cool them.
Yeah.
And like they said, they talked about draining. Now this is what we were told in that room. They would not drain them. Nobody knew if you would drill in and it wasn't liquid you were drilling into, it was gas, it would blow up.
Absolutely.
So that's why they didn't drain the cars out. But I knew more stuff came out during the NTSB hearings.
Yeah.
So,
Well, my thing of it is if they're going to haul that kind of stuff, there should be pressure release valves on them.
there was.
They
They gummed up. So they, like a lot, those tanks, like the only one was full, but it was still venting because it was getting warm. But the ones that were burning, like when you were down there, they would burn for a couple minutes, and then the pressure would release, and then they would go.
Right.
Well, then the pressure release valves, because they quit burning, but there was still stuff in them. So they like gummed up, and NTSB kept all those. They cut them. They had to cut them out of all the cars, and they put them off to the side. They were there with the train, and they inspected all those.
And I just want to say real quick, I'm not questioning in any way on how the first responders put that fire out because God bless them, that was a bad night, and they put their life on the line every time they go, and that night especially.
Who knows when that thing could have went?
Oh yeah, so I mean, shout out to all the first
And that,
responders.
you cleared that up for me because I didn't know that there was 1/4-inch steel, then insulation, and then another layer
Well, I
of
figured it
steel.
would have to be pretty thick.
So that insulation, I mean, just spraying a hose on it, you're not necessarily going to be able to get through that insulation to cool that chemical. So, I mean, that kind
And
of
if it did explode, it would have been like a grenade.
yeah,
It would have been
Shrapnel.
yeah. That's a tough call.
Everybody was in the room. Like people say they weren't in the room. Everybody was in the room. Everybody that needed to be there was in the room. The people that made the product, the people that EPA was in there, everybody was in there. They can say what they want, but I'm telling you, I saw them with my own eyes.
Yep.
And
That's a tough call.
it was
So if you drain it, it's going to run out onto the ground.
Well,
If
there's
you
no
fill
way.
it up.
Yeah, they thought it was. They called it polymerization, where it turns like into a goo. It goes from a liquid because when they haul that stuff across, they put something in there that like settles it down so it doesn't shake up too much. And they said if that gets heated, it can mix it up and then it'll start polymerizing. Well, when they hit it, I was talking to the guys that do this on a regular basis, and they were in the incident command, sitting right beside me and the CEO. Whenever they hit the button, they said there. We told you it was polymerizing because how it shot out. Then Oxyvinyl said, in the NTSB hearings that it wasn't, and I'm no expert on any of that, so I don't know. So we had to rely on the experts.
Well, there you have it, folks. If you, for those of you that was questioning on why they did the burn off, that's why.
Yeah.
I
That
mean,
answered. I had questions too.
And like I'm saying, now everybody likes to play Monday morning quarterback. At the NTSB, some stuff came out that maybe they, so we had to go with what the information
Absolutely.
we had at that time.
And to come up with and to deal with that and that, oh man, oh Jesus, you had to make that decision. There was no training on
That's
that
a tough one.
whatsoever. A training derailment like that.
There's training, but nothing to that. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
that
the
was
biggest
pretty
chemical disaster in America.
Yeah, I mean, and
Involving a train.
so I can imagine you guys all went into this kind of like not knowing what the hell to do.
So Christina would like to know if you think that further areas should have been evacuated and placed in shelters
Just
when they did the burn. Just did you guys just evacuate a 1 mile?
well, yeah,
Yes.
because they was more worried about the shrapnel.
Well,
But the
what
tank-
she's asking is when they decided to do
plume.
the burn, the plume. Do you think you should have evacuated more than the area that you did?
He can't evacuate Beaver County.
Yeah.
Well, she lives in East Palestine.
Oh, well then,
Everybody was in a 1 mile. I mean, we kept to what there's like a guidebook in case something would be on fire or what it is. It's I forget what it's called, the emergency response guidebook.
Yeah.
And it gives you if it's on fire, if how far to get away, and that's what. And the reason for the 1 mile is like the furthest car that's blown up, train car was 3/4 of a mile. So then they take it to like extra. Yeah, but as far as doing that, all that modeling was done through different agencies, the National Guard and other things. So, I mean,
and me personally, if I were to have left my house, I don't know anybody far enough away that I think I would have escaped it anyway.
well, and like people were really like, that's the only time my family left.
Yeah.
My family was there other than 7 hours. And you know where I sent them? 3/4 of a mile behind us to my parents, and so if
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, wow, could you imagine trying to relocate?
So this lady wants to know: will residents get access to vapor intrusion testing in their homes, like the municipal buildings have received?
to my understanding, they did that in a lot of homes during the event,
Right.
and the reason, I guess if you were by the creek, they maybe, but I can't speak on that. That would have to be a question for the EPA.
Yeah.
But we got it because we were right over the creek, and it was a horrible smell. And I want to clarify something else. When I said that I had just heard about vapor intrusion, I meant I heard Jamie talk about that way back in the day.
Yeah.
And she's very up to date on all that, and she's done a lot of great work, and I will never hold that against her. We've had some issues, going back and forth, but I think it's just our personalities. I would never degrade anything she's done for the village. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
Both aspects. Like, I can have we can sit down and have we've had very respectful talks, and it just tempers get heated up, and
Well, she's just very passionate.
Yeah, she is, and I will never take that away from her.
So, Jessica wants to know, do you personally believe that the controlled burn was the only viable measure to stop the burning of the chemicals? Because it's been said over and over that the chemicals were cooling as they should before the decision to detonate the cars.
I personally think in that time, that was the best decision at that time.
Yeah.
But given what I know now, I don't know. I don't know who, because they said, even in NTSB, they said they didn't think that was happening.
Yeah.
But then other people say it was. So at the time and place, if you would take me back to the same place, the same knowledge I had, yeah, I think that was the best thing to do. But I mean, like I said, we had to rely on the subject matter experts to tell us, because I was, if they were blowing up limestone, I was their guy. I could have told them anything about blowing up limestone, because that's what I did for years.
Not train cars.
Not train cars. I have no idea.
Vinyl chloride.
Yeah, for the vinyl chloride. I'm not a chemist, and
Yeah.
so.
Well, what's your take on DeWine declaring his previously submitted emergency declaration? What's your take on DeWine declaring his previously submitted emergency declaration?
So he did declare a state of emergency?
I didn't think
So yeah, he asked the government. So how a declaration of emergency works? I declared one. I think Saturday morning it was. Don't quote me on that. There was so much stuff going in my head. It was either Saturday morning or Sunday morning. Then the county did one. The commissioner signed one.
Yeah.
Because it was over their head. So whenever it's over your head of what you can handle, then you call the state.
Right.
Well, the state wanted to make sure, because there was a little turmoil with it being a Democratic Party in the White House, and Republicans, like I said, politics came in, but DeWine kept politics out of it.
Right.
But he wanted to make sure that we were covered just in case. So that's when he filed the emergency order. He sent it to the president. I don't know the exact term for it, but he sent it to the president, and then the president decided not to do that.
decided to not.
To not declare this a state disaster.
That would be the Biden area.
Yeah, that would be the Biden area.
Do you think he should have?
I have mixed feelings on it.
Yeah.
Well,
I think if he would have declared it, I don't know. Let's face it, we've all seen on TV, like FEMA wasn't going to help. FEMA came in, did nothing. So I don't know where the money would have came from, because they said, we got all these messages saying that FEMA wasn't going to help us.
Mhm.
So if they declared it and FEMA can't help, then I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, because if it goes into a lawsuit with Norfolk Southern, then where do you, like if the government sues Norfolk Southern to, displace everybody and do all that, then how long is that going to take? And,
Right.
So you don't know. It's up, it was up in the air.
Yeah.
So, my personal opinion, it would destroy the village, and we would be, you could pretty much close the door on the village if they say that's a disaster area.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to want to live there.
Right.
Yeah. I do think people that wanted to leave probably should have had that option, but we've went over that numerous times with everybody, and nobody wanted to take that responsibility. And as a village, we just can't afford to do that. We can't have the funds to do that.
Right.
Say so. So
I was told there's people that still relocated. Like they haven't.
yeah, there's some people that haven't been back to town.
Wow.
The lady that's going to be on next weekend, is she in her home?
I don't know.
What's
Chrissy?
Yeah, is she in her home? Or
I don't know, Chris. If you're watching, give us a call or comment on the live and let us know if you are in your home still, or if you relocated, or if you moved, or what.
we got another question. This is for Mr. Conaway. Will you be advocating for federal disaster declaration law at the White House?
No.
No. Okay. Okay.
And the reason for that is I just don't know.
Just like you said,
We would like to get healthcare another way, and I honestly don't think they would do it. First of all, and I think we would just don't know.
Okay, so this lady said Chrissy is not in her home; she has moved.
Okay.
Okay, that's the lady that says there's contaminated water still coming in her basement. She's going to be on. We're going to have her on next weekend, next Saturday.
Yes.
Okay. It would destroy the economy of East Palestine, but help residents. Every coffer in East Palestine is full of. I think that's supposed to be basement, but in East Palestine is still full, but residents got zero. Why?
I don't. Well, first of all, our coffers. I mean, now that the settlement, but that's the only significant money we got. Every other penny we got from Norfolk Southern paid for something they destroyed. So, whether it was giving us fire, like the ladder truck. Yeah, we needed a new ladder truck because ours got ruined. We needed new police vehicles. We needed a new ambulance. We needed, But as far as helping the residents, I don't know if it would help the residents. I'm not going to get an argument with somebody I can't face to face, but I don't know if it would. I need, according to everybody that I talked to at FEMA and in the Biden administration, and the EPA said that it wouldn't help because it's been too far down, and this wasn't a natural disaster, so it was caused by a company. So therefore, FEMA wouldn't help us because we tried to get FEMA to help us, and they just said there's nothing. It's not a natural disaster. That they're a responsible party. They're paying for it.
Wow. Yeah.
So
it's a tough situation.
Yeah,
Sure is.
Well, I kind of out of questions here on the live.
Well, we kind of ran over our time anyway, so.
It's all right. We got it accomplished here. I think Mayor Trent came on here and
Set the
cleared
record
the air,
straight.
set the record straight,
Absolutely.
answered the questions. It was shoot from the hip. We didn't even know who was calling in with what questions.
and if you get more and you need me to stop down and do one again,
Okay.
I can do one in 6 months or a year or whenever
Okay.
I try to always be available. Like I
I
said,
know you're busy.
I got a full-time job too and doing all this, but
Right.
now we have a good village manager. I've taken a big step back and I'm back to just being a normal mayor. So
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning into this first live we've ever done. Oh,
Yeah,
it's too
first
bad.
one. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Shoot from the hip. We didn't go all out. We're just
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor,
absolutely.
for being here.
Thank you guys for having a platform for people to you can get both sides
Absolutely.
of everybody down here, and
Yeah.
I think that's fair and it's a great tool to have. So
Yeah, and if anybody wants to be a guest on the show, just give us a call, 330-719-5379, or just hit us up in the comments. We'll schedule you in. Peace out. Have a great night.
later.